But here's the thing. When you look at the modern versions of it, you basically are looking at floods that are less than 1,000th of one single flow from these floods we're talking about that happened, 12 and 13,000 years ago.
1,000th.
Less than 1,000th. Less than 1,000th in peak discharge and in total volume. And so it has been admitted in several places. I've extracted the quotes saying, well, we do admit that this is a major extrapolation upwards, but never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind. It's so disturbing to me.
See, Harlan Breaths, for 30 years, was walking the walk in the Channel Scablands, and what he saw was evidence for, as he called it, a humongous flood, which actually rose and fell within 3 weeks. And he went through decades of being put aside by his colleagues, insulted, they mocked him, they laughed at him, just as the skeptics do today. But gradually the evidence began to mount, and they couldn't deny it anymore, that there had been flooding. And actually, eventually, they gave J. Harlan Breaths, the Penrose Medal, which is the ultimate, the ultimate bestowal of geology in America. He got the accolade. And he said at that, he was more than 90 years old at that time, and he said at that time, he said, all my enemies are dead, so I have no one left to gloat over. But the point is, in a way, there was nothing to gloat about, because what they did was they separated him from his central idea. Instead of accepting that there had been one huge flood, and that was always his view, they said, oh, there must have been 70 or 80 floods that caused all this damage. And that's what we are seriously challenging right now.
It's so ironic in a way that the human desire for knowledge is what has led us to where we are today. We have this insatiable desire for knowledge and for innovation, but that same human desire to achieve is also what's the ego's responsible for that. And the ego blocks anything that's contrary to what you've already established as fact.
Exactly.
As soon as you see something that might throw a monkey wrench into the gears of what you've been teaching and practicing your whole life, and I know that you've gone through this with Egypt, your whole issue with the Sphinx, and with Dr. Shock and John Anthony West, who was on the podcast last month.
John was with you just recently.
Yeah, he's amazing.
By the way, I'm going to be doing an event in New York with John Anthony West.
When?
On the 29th of November.
Where?
It's linked on my website.
Okay.
The details are on the talks and events page. It's in some church somewhere, but I'm going to give a presentation, and then I'm going to interview John live on stage. First time I've ever done that. I'm kind of podcasting in a way.
He's such a character.
He's an amazing man.
I love that dude. And Magical Egypt is, I think, one of the most important things that anybody could ever watch.
Yeah.
I think that DVD series is just insane. It's so spectacular and so fantastic. And next to going to Egypt, which I haven't done, I think that's probably the second best thing.
You bet. Yeah. And John is an example of why we need heretics. This is the thing. You see that science today, yes, you're right. We have this thirst for knowledge, and it's human characteristic, but also we get invested in particular positions. And when people criticize those positions, we take it as an existential threat, and where we get all angry and hot and bothered about it. If we allow that to happen too much, if we don't keep a place for heretics in our society, then we're never going to do anything novel. We're gradually going to get locked down, ossified into the existing system. We need heretics. John has been the leading heretic on ancient Egypt for decades, pointing out that we should listen to what the ancient Egyptians said, that their civilization was not a development. It was a legacy. It was a legacy from the time of the gods. And that casts me back again to this whole issue of a lost civilization.
Now, when Göbekli Tepe was discovered, it vindicated you in so many ways. But what are the possibilities, if any, of more of these sites being explored and exposed? I mean, are there more that people are looking at right now? Are there any that are under the radar?
Just a year ago, at the bottom of the Sicily Channel, at a depth of more than 120 feet, it's been underwater for at least 9,000 years, is a huge megalithic site. Before the discovery of Göbekli Tepe,